we're at the Royal Rumble itself.
Yes, we are.
The difficulty with the Royal Rumble is all the matches before, you're just like, if I can get to the Rumble.
That's what I came for. Yeah, the Rumble.
Don't care about your old-fashioned wrestling
Have
matches.
I seen Rumbles that start, like, you get the Rumble and there's a match after it as well?
You get that in later years where they have a women's and a male Royal Rumble. They will sort of go, let's start with the Royal Rumble. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah. But then you've got the middle bit where they're like, here's a Sheamus match. I can do without that.
Sheamus. Poor lad.
This is the 1993 Royal Rumble, the 6th Royal Rumble in the Royal Rumble chronology.
Right.
And the first major one that takes place without Hulk Hogan. There is a lack of star power in this match, even though this is sort of a lot of the golden era performers are in there.
Yeah. Skinner.
Yeah. Skinner's fascinating.
I forgot about Skinner, and that's what I've written. First note on this, I forgot about Skinner.
There are very, very few performers of this era that haven't had loads of action figures. There are the few who haven't. People are always like, I'd love a figure of him.
Yes.
Let's petition Mattel. Let's get a figure of XYZ, King Kong Bundy, say. Skinner has had one action figure in 1992, never another one.
Right.
And nobody's ever been like, bigger mission. No. People are just like, don't want it.
Don't want it. It's probably worth a lot by virtue of the fact that nobody wanted it. People still don't want it. It's still not attractive.
The really annoying thing about the Hasbro figure of Skinner that came out in 1992 is if you don't know it's wrestling, it doesn't look like a wrestling figure. It's just like a backwoods man. And that in itself, you sort of just go, this doesn't really fit. We will talk a bit about Skinner. I mean, he was a really unusual... So he was like a star wherever he went in the Southern Territories. A guy called Steve Kern. Good performer. He was in a tag team called the Fabulous Ones with Stan Lane. I've put up some photos of them before, which you have seen, where it's just them wearing tiny little bow ties, and it's very homoerotic.
It's very strippery.
Very strippery. He was a big star wherever he went until he comes to the WWF, and they bring him in 1992, and really unusually, they take someone who is traditionally a sort of classic blue-eyed babyface who was, the women used to scream and delight in, and they go, what if we made him a disgusting pig? What if we made him look like he stinks of like petrol and shit?
Yeah.
He's one of the very few WWE superstars at this time who's balding.
Yes.
Which is odd that he's the one who's balding, because a lot of steroid use, often, you get increased testosterone, you begin getting baldness. But apart from Hogan, Skinner is really the only bald man with his lank, greasy, disgusting hair and his obsession with cutting off alligator feet and parading them around, chewing tobacco as well, just blubbering all over his face. Disgusting pig. Gorilla actually does refer to him in this match. I think he goes, he's a filthy pig.
Yes, he does.
He's a filthy pig. Good T-shirt. Picture of Skinner. He's a filthy pig.
Filthy pig Skinner.
Filthy pig Skinner. And there he goes.
Oh, no, he's not out yet.
He hung on. Oh, but the drop kick got him.
This is the first Royal Rumble that they had as well, where they determined that the winner of this match would get the main event for the title at the subsequent WrestleMania, which was WrestleMania 9. And that began the tradition that whoever won the Rumble would end up getting a world title shot.
Yeah, because I also think with that, it's like, if it was just like, if you win, you get to be on WrestleMania. If you're winning Royal Rumble, you should be in the main event.
Yeah,
really, at
you should.
WrestleMania.
What they've never done is they've never had someone surprisingly win it.
No, yes.
The closest they came was one year, I think Alberto Del Rio won it. So it could have been about 2011-12.
Yeah.
And Santina Marella, the comedy character, had been basically knocked out of the ring, but not over the top rope.
Right.
And as Alberto Del Rio dispatched the last person and began celebrating, Santino popped back up. And the reaction is one of the great reactions of all time, where people just went, oh my God. And he throws Alberto, but it doesn't work, and then he gets eliminated. But they've never done it where they've gone, and it's difficult to do, isn't it? Because you're tying yourself into the WrestleMania main event.
Yes.
But they've never done it where they've gone, this fucking no-hoper who has no chance of winning just won the Royal Rumble.
But they should. They should do that.
1 year.
It's just fucking wrestling. Don't worry about it.
Completely. We are going into WrestleMania and Coco Beware is going to be in the main event.
Yeah.
And you know what you do? You go, everyone thinks this is going to be a shit match. And then Coco turns it on and it's a 25-minute thriller. That's what wrestling should be like. If it doesn't work, it's not going to make a difference.
No.
People don't buy WrestleMania because of the main event. They buy it because it's WrestleMania.
The first two, yeah, fine. Mr. T was in there, fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's a needle mover. But nowadays, no one gives a shit.
Totally. Stick a couple of like good matches in, and then just throw away the last one. It'd be fucking thrilling. The first two into the ring are Bob Backlund and Ric Flair. The first time we've ever got two former world champions in the first two numbers of the Rumble. They always make a big thing about who's number one. They never make a big thing about who's number two. It is the same position. It's just nuts. Flair is the complete professional because at this point he has already taped the match where he loses to Mr. Perfect in a loser leaves WWF match, which will be shown the following night on Raw.
Right.
So he's already working out his contract. He's he's off. He's back to WCW. He said to Vince McMahon, "You said to me when I came here, if I wasn't happy with my position in the card, you would let me go. I'm not happy with my position in the card. I'd like to go."
That is very Harry Kane gentleman's agreement,
isn't it?
You need that in black and white.
It would be so. I mean, nobody else would be given that privilege apart from Ric Flair. Bob Backlund, interesting character. This is his return to the WWE. He's been gone a long time. So he was the WWF's figurehead champion from 1978 until 1983. He won the title from superstar Billy Graham, and he lost it to the Iron Sheik when his manager Arnold Scarland threw in the towel. Basically what had happened, Vince McMahon has come along, he has gone, I need a figurehead. Bob Backlund is not the right guy. Bob Backlund, certainly by 1983, he'd been very popular, but people were getting a bit tired of him. He'd begun changing, oddly as well, his own sort of image. So he'd got a crew cut and he was doing much more amateur wrestling. And he'd slightly let himself get a bit flabby and out of shape. And Vince McMahon had said, I really want Hogan to be the man who takes us forward. I think we've gone as far as we can with Backlund. He said to Bob Backlund, I want you to go heel. And I want you to lose to Hulk Hogan. But Backlund had been, a huge star for 5 years. He'd sold out Madison Square Garden in numerous main events. Yeah. And he said, like a lot of people do when they get to that level, he said, no, I don't think that's right for me at all. So instead, they have a transitional champion. He loses the belt to the Iron Sheik, and Sheik then loses to Hogan within 2 months to really kick off the golden era of the 1980s and hulkamania. He returns to the WWF in 1992, at the end of 92, at the age of 43. And it just seemed like a mad decision. He didn't look like any other WWE stars. Yeah. His gimmick was, I just wear red shorts. And everyone makes a big deal about how old
I am.
He is.
43 or something.
43. Yeah. 2 years ago, I was 43.
But they talk about it like it's the most ancient thing in the world. Bearing in mind, all the commentators are in their 50s.
Yeah, but it did seem like it was an old man who came back.
Yeah.
To face the WrestleMania champion, whoever he is, and to go for the gold.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to thank you for all the great support you've given me since I've been back in the WWF. It really means a lot.
The biggest, baddest wrestling event of the year, the Royal Rumble.
You get the adrenaline going in my body, and I appreciate that.
Bonsoir!
I've got something very important, and that's this Royal Rumble coming up.
This is a Berserker specialty match.
The winner gets to wrestle for the WWF title. And that's something I want very, very badly.
This Sunday we're going to make history one more time. Last year we beat all the WWF superstars.
I know it's going to be hard because there's a lot of tough people in there, and they've all got high goals. But I've got a big heart, a lot of desire, and I'm going to fight.
Bob Backlund determined.
Up to this point, really, they'd never brought back anyone who'd been out of the business for that long. So when Hogan became big, Backlund left the WWF in 1984, and he just dropped out of wrestling entirely by 1985.
Yeah.
He didn't come back until 1991, and he only had these sort of sporadic matches. He had a slightly sort of forgettable run in the revived UWF. He was on their Beach Blast pay-per-view, and he beat Ivan Koloff, a guy who had been WWF champion even before him. So he was hanging around with people who seemed like they were in their 60s, which didn't really give him a young man's rub. He then went to Japan, took part in some sort of worked shoot matches where he got bashed up very badly. Yeah. And he comes back, and he has been totally forgotten by this period. The pre-1984 Hulkamania win is basically year zero for WWF. And so they've never mentioned Backlund in the next 7 years. So he comes back, and it's the first person who's come back from way back when. And they just portray him as going, he is a fossil. Here is a mummy that has come over. This was the match where they give him a push. And they give him a push by going, he goes up against everyone. He comes in at number 1, and he is still there in the final 3 at the end. And it's a great example of how the Royal Rumble was so big that a great showing in the Royal Rumble could really change the trajectory of your career. And it's good. He had a longevity record in the Royal Rumble that lasted until 2004 when it was beaten by Chris Benoit. But in an era where people, you never saw matches that were over 12 minutes long. For him to sort of do nearly an hour was just a sort of unparalleled physical feat, made even more impressive by the fact that everyone is basically like, this guy is going to die very soon. Papa Shango comes in, gets thrown out very quickly. Yeah. What's really odd about this one is they don't have the numbers. No one's saying the numbers, so you never know where you are in the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I was just like, well, I know for a fact that Macho Man turns up at some point, and I know he's the last one, but where are we at? Where are we at?
Brian Knobbs comes in, and Brian Knobbs is a tag team wrestler. And Brian Knobbs, you forget how dynamic he is as a performer. So he really moves in a way that no one else moves. Because he's got a big, round, top-heavy body, and he's got long legs. When he goes into the ropes, he just basically is about 6 feet away from them as he leans on them. And then he bounces back like a sort of catapulted egg. And when he hits clotheslines, they look devastating. I was watching him and going, you are the most exciting dynamic performer in this entire match. He's just really exciting. He goes much too fast into everything because he looks barely in control. He is a good mover, and I enjoyed watching him in this, as brief as it was. The crowd are genuinely like, yeah, this guy is better than Ric Flair and Bob Backlund. He's seen as being a great big horrible fat slob, but he moves really well. Like when you see sort of elderly people who can suddenly dance. And you just go, how'd that happen? It's like when you see Brian Knobbs in the ring, you go, shouldn't work, does.
Come on, Undertaker, get him. There he goes, he's going for the pin. There's my man, Macho said, get it, dig it. Hey, he's cheating. You can't cheat. This is my... Come on. In the back. Come on in. There he is. He's in the ring.
WWF Royal Rumble, available this Tuesday on Super NES.
Come on, Macho.